Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. You know those people who like spicy food? That's the kind of person our OP had to teach a lesson to. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. He wanted extra jalapenos. This is one from my days at a waffle place. Me and another server, S, and cook, C, are working third shift, which goes from 2100 to 700. We're all standing around about 100, bored out of our skulls, when the phone rings. S answers it, starts taking an order, suddenly jerks the phone away from her ear. The restaurant's empty aside from us, so we can hear this guy, G, perfectly. Every time I order from here, y'all always skimp on the GD jalapenos. I want extra, extra, extra. I swear to God, if y'all don't put enough on there. S, sir, I'm going to have to ask you to quit screaming and cussing. You said you wanted extra peppers? I'll do whatever I effing want. I'm paying your salary, you effing B. Of course, we'll make sure there are extra peppers. She hangs up. We all look at each other with PO'd expressions. He wants extra jalapenos on his hash browns. Oh, he'll get them. Cook then proceeds to drop 4 servings worth of jalapenos on the grill with the hash browns, 3 servings of raw jalapenos on the plate before putting the hash browns on it, and S takes special pleasure in coating the whole thing in several ladles of jalapeno juice. The fumes made me sneeze from a foot away. We boxed it up. S went to smoke when the guy showed up, so I was the one cashing him out. If there ain't enough effing jalapeno peppers on here, I'm coming back and cramming this in your face. I grinned. I don't think that'll be a problem, sir. He never came back. And our next story. You want to order parts online after I explain you're making a huge mistake? Go for it. We owned an auto repair shop for years, until the mid-2000s. It was rare for a customer to provide their own parts for basic repairs, but then people discovered online shopping. Most of the time, we explained they were not saving much money and that we wouldn't warranty the part, which meant if it failed, the customer was going to have to pay the labor to have us remove it so they could return the part and get a new one for us to reinstall. Whereas if we provided the part, we would warranty it. Most of the time, the savings was minimal and not worth chancing it. But on occasion, the price difference was significant, and that's where the headache started. A customer brought her car in because it was overheating. We diagnosed it and quoted her about $500 for the repairs. New thermostat, radiator, and hose. Hers was badly cracked, and while it didn't leak, it was going to at some point soon. Plus labor and coolant. $250 of that was for her radiator. She okayed the job. The husband calls and says, hell no. He sees a radiator online for $129, and we're effing him over. Luckily, me takes the call. I ask where he sees said radiator, and he tells me crapparts.com. I don't remember the site. So I look it up and explain it's a universal radiator, meaning it can be used in several models of whatever brand car, but was for each model. You had to do something like punching out a hole, A or B, or snipping a tab off, etc. In other words, you had to alter it to make it fit, and by altering it, you voided the warranty. I also explained a radiator is under pressure, and by having different holes to punch out made it inherently weaker. He argued that because I'm a woman, I have no idea what I'm talking about, and I just want to charge him a higher price so I made more money to spend at the mall. Now, I was used to the you have boobs, you can't know cars mindset, and it really didn't bother me. But saying I wanted money to go to the mall crossed the line. I hate effing mall shopping. It was like he knew that would piss me off. So I told him to just come get the car, we're not going to work on his crap, and hung up. My husband was standing next to me, laughing, and was surprised that's all I said. He was completely on board with not doing the job and always backed me up if I refused to take a job. We were always busy and didn't need to deal with people who were a-holes. His kryptonite was crying women, and sure enough, the wife comes in crying that she really wants us to do the work. My husband caves and says, okay, and explains why they shouldn't order the radiator from crapparts.com. She understands and agrees to use ours. Once again, her husband gets pissed, but instead of calling, he comes into the shop. He refuses to talk to me, so I get my husband. He explains same thing I told him, and the guy still insists on ordering the radiator from crapparts.com. We cave and say, okie dokie. malicious compliance sets in, and we make him sign a waiver that explains why the part might fail, why it won't be warrantied, and that we'll charge him remove and replace labor if we have to replace it. His wife is without her car for the week while we wait for the radiator, and I'm sure you can guess it failed. Didn't even last a week before the other hole blew out. They pay to have the car towed back to the shop. I call and ask if they want to have me get a new one or just get a refund from crapparts.com, or if they want to exchange theirs. Nope, husband insists on exchanging theirs. They pay to have faulty radiator pulled, pay to ship it back. Wife's without car for another 2 weeks when Crap Parts says they won't warranty the radiator because it's been altered. Finally, wife has had enough and tells us to ignore husband and just fix the car. He never comes back, but she remained a loyal customer, and after they got divorced a couple years later, she told me that radiator ended up being $129 plus $59 shipping and $90 to ship it back, $175 to have her car towed, $200 for a rental car while they waited for the first one, and $325 for the second rental until she said F it, plus the credit card fees. The best part was in their divorce, she used all of that along with the $500 to do the job the second time to show how financially irresponsible he was and had saddled them with debts they could have avoided, so the judge made him responsible for all their credit card debt. Do your research, but listen to your mechanic. If you find something that might be cheaper, but your mechanic says, nope, bad idea, chances are it is. And it's time to put your ego aside and let them make your car safer. And our last story. You want proof my aunt died? Okay. I remembered this today, but it actually happened about 5 years ago. My boss, Bob, was a jerk to me on a good day. I was the only woman working in the warehouse, and he always treated me differently, even though my work ethic was no different than my other two coworkers. The other two guys I worked with called him old-fashioned, which I think was code for racist, sexist, and homophobic, but he's old, so we'll give him a pass. Anyway, when you have a big Irish Catholic family, sometimes you have bad years where it seems like more people pass away than normal. 2014 was one of those years for me. 2 of my relatives passed away in 2 weeks. And we lost others that year too, but it just so happened that those 2 funerals were on consecutive Fridays. The first funeral was my mom's cousin Kay, who passed out of nowhere from a heart attack. We're all surprised and hurt by her passing, and I get news that her service will be that Friday. Okay, cool. I go to my boss and tell him I'll have to use one of my bereavement days to attend a funeral. This is where the bullcrap starts. He asks me who passed, and I tell him. He then tells me, very rudely I might add, that if I had even read the employee handbook, I'd know that bereavement days are only if the employee's parents, grandparents, or children die. I say, okay, no problem. Sorry, I didn't know the policy. I then tell him I'll be taking a vacation day then. He tells me that if I'm requesting a vacation day for a funeral, I have to provide him, not HR, with a copy of the obituary. Not knowing any better, I say, okay. That night, I go home, take a photo of the obit my ma had clipped, email it to him, got my day off, and thought all was well. But that weekend, my Aunt Elle passed away. Elle wasn't my biological aunt. She was actually my cousin's grandmother, but my cousin and I were very close growing up, and we spent a ton of time at each other's houses. Aunt Elle was around a ton when I was growing up, and she passed after battling cancer. I was devastated. I went into work that Monday, a complete emotional mess, and let my boss know that unfortunately my family had experienced another loss and that we didn't know yet when the service would be, but I just wanted to let him and my team know that I might have to take another vacation day this week. As I'm telling my boss this, I'm crying. And he sort of watches me blurt all this stuff out stony-faced. He just says, okay, and sends me on my way. Later that day, I get an email from him with a request for a copy of an obituary. I go into his office and tell him I don't have a picture of the obituary in the paper, but I have the funeral home's website that I can show him, since my cousin shared it on his Facebook, which also announced that her funeral service would be that Friday. He loses his crap. He starts throwing these insane accusations at me, like that Aunt Elle has a different last name than me, so clearly I'm not actually related to her and don't know who she is. He said that he won't believe a post on Facebook about someone I don't even know dying, and that there's no way he was going to give me 2 Fridays off in a row to go to funerals. He did air quotes at that? What an F-face. It's the beginning of busy season there, and we don't have time to take a pee swamped, And he says I'm taking time off to F over the business and my coworkers because I'm a lazy millennial. He accuses me of making fake posts to try and get a 3-day weekend instead of just requesting vacation time like a normal human being. I just walked out crying. I'm sad to say I didn't have the mentality then to defend myself or tell Bob to go F himself. Later that day, I went and explained to HR what was happening, and she got everything straightened out, and I got my Friday off, as a bereavement day no less. But I was angry and upset, and I formulated a plan fueled entirely by pettiness. Firstly, I dug out my childhood photo albums and took out every picture with Aunt Elle, myself, my brother, and my cousin. My Nan loved scrapbooking, so luckily, she always took a ton of pictures at family events and gave us disposable cameras all the time. Secondly, I bought a newspaper that had her obituary in it. Third, I took screenshots of her Facebook page with a ton of people with my last name writing goodbye posts on her wall, including my own post. Then, on the Friday of her funeral, I took an extra prayer card. That following Monday, I went into work with my folder full of Aunt Elle. I made copies of everything on the work copiers, which was a fireable offense at that job, and put it all into a binder that I took from the supply closet for maximum petty points. Then I walked into my boss's office. I had all weekend to think about this epic speech I was going to give him about what a jerk he was, but when I got in there, I sadly lost some steam and just awkwardly said, "Bob, I quit. You're an a-hole, dude." I put the binder on his desk and walked to my desk, packed my crap, and left. I got calls from the HR lady for weeks asking me to come back, but eventually I stopped answering her calls. I heard they hired 2 temporary workers for the summer to help out. Even though it was dumb for me to quit with nothing else lined up, I found another job pretty quickly, and I no longer had to work for a complete D-head. I actually really like my boss now. Just this year, I found out from a former coworker that the company had gone under and was bought by another company, and that my old a-hole boss was forced into early retirement because the new company looked through his records and saw he had several complaints over the decades he worked there and decided they didn't want to deal with him. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.